से निकालना है, मैन्युफैक्चरिंग में डालना है, उनके लिए जॉब्स क्रिएट कर रही है। अगले 20 साल का ये चुनौती है। आप तो आनंद जी ट्रेड मिनिस्टर रहे हैं इस देश के इतने साल तक। ईज ऑफ डूइंग बिजनेस पे सबसे ज्यादा किसी के भाषण होंगे तो आपके होंगे, और किसी देश के व्यक्ति को या बाहर के व्यक्ति को कहेंगे निवेश कर, उद्योग लगा, रोजगार दे, पर जमीन के लिए पहले 70% की कंसेंट ला, फिर ये सारी प्रक्रिया होगी, उसके बाद देखेंगे तुझे जमीन मिलती है कि नहीं मिलती। Are we reaching a stage where industry becomes a bad word? And the last one is infrastructure. Infrastructure where land continues to be owned by the government. अब शहरों में तो फिर भी इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर है, इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर तो पिछड़े इलाकों में ज्यादा बनना है, तो उनको पिछड़ा रहने दे। Mr. Deputy Chairman, this debate is not between rich and poor, or farmer or non-farmer. This is between adding to the poverty of India and making India poor for the next few decades. May I just take leave? I read a very interesting document. And this document, if I am permitted to read, I can even place it on the table. This was sent to the Honorable Prime Minister at that time in 2012. It says, and I quote, Prime Minister's urgent attention is drawn to the serious concerns raised by the industry on the Land Acquisition, Rehabilitation, Resettlement Bill 2011, recommended by the Parliamentary Standing Committee. The bill in its present state will have adverse long-term implications on manufacturing, industrialization and urbanization in India, and will be key impediment in operationalization of the Delhi-Mumbai Industrial Corridor project, creation of national investment and manufacturing zone. Since most of the major infrastructure projects are today being implemented on a PPP basis, it is imperative to broaden the definition of public purpose to include development of NIMZ and industrial townships under this project. The bill envisages exclusion of PPP projects and industrial townships and has certain provisions which will not only make the cost of land exorbitantly high, but also make acquisition proceedings willy-nilly impossible. The insistence of consent of 80% of affected families will seriously delay acquisition and in many cases halt infrastructure projects. It has been stipulated that urgency clause cannot be invoked for industrial townships, expressways, highways, NIMZs, which would lead to delay in land availability for infrastructure projects. The imposition of 100% solatium over and above a multiplier of 2 will lead to cost spiral impact on land prices. While the bill was under examination by the Parliamentary Standing Committee, the department had taken these issues up on such and such date. I had also written to the chairperson of the committee and given a detailed representation. However, the concerns of the ministry have not been addressed in finalization of the report, which was tabled in Parliament. A legislation of this nature in the present shape will render key infrastructure projects unviable, slow down the process of urbanization completely. The coming years will see an increased demand for robust urban infrastructure and development of urban townships, which can fuel the next wave of economic growth. Prime Minister would like to take a call. It says everything that I am trying to say. The author of this document is sitting here, Mr. Anand Sharma. Now, the other day you got up and said you are anti-farmer because you are doing this. When this law was being framed, this is what the UPA ministers had to tell the Prime Minister.
I still stand by this. That was a well-considered recommendation which Jairam and my government was fully aware of, because these are national projects, national initiatives, whether the DMIC or the NIMS and the National Investment Manufacturing Zones or the industrial townships. That's very, very clear. The only concern which we have is that the social infrastructure, the definition is not becoming clear, and also opening a door for the private sector That is questionable. That if you will allow the private sector, state cannot acquire for the private sector. That's the issue. It's not the job of the state to acquire for the private sector, whether for private hospitals or for private universities. That is not the headache of the states.
This is, we may come out with various explanations now, but at the end of the day, if I take Mr. Sharma's explanation, then henceforth we'll only find nationalized industries running businesses in India, because there can't be land given to a private sector. I only urge you. All right, sir.
I think the bill will come to the
This bill is about acquisition of land.
Okay. Yes, please. All right.
Sir, may I?
No. All right. No.
Provision in any law of any country for acquisition to transfer to the private sector.
Okay.
That is written in the Parliamentary Standing Committee report.
SHanKar, you on your time?
Sir.
Yeah, please. Okay, silence. Okay, please. Yes, sir.
Sir.
Sure, please.
Two interventions took place. My friend Jairam and I have discussed this in the past also, you'll remember. I'll never reproduce our conversations, but I'm aware of his argument and I'm also aware of the response I gave. He says, buy the land and build on it. So if you want to set up an industry in India, buy agricultural land and set up an industry. My response then was that agricultural land can't become industrial land. It's the state to decide whether to convert the user or not. If instead of planned development, it may be the land itself may not be agricultural land, it may be wasteland. If the only way of setting up industry in India is first buy land from the farmer, then go to the chief minister with a change of land user, we have seen what has happened in the last several years. Then CLU will be the only industry left in this country. You know it. You just have to drive across into Gurgaon and you'll know what happened in that state. The state survived only on one industry, which was the CLU, change of land user industry. And you want to institutionalize it. And Mr. Manishankar Aiyyar, I'm grateful he permitted me for the last 45 minutes to speak and came. It was only in the end. He said, don't acquire it, let people buy it. There's a difference. I of course know the difference. But your 13 exempted acts, Mr. Aiyyar, are all acquisition acts. They are not buying acts. You can exempt 13 acts from consent. You can exempt 13 acts from SIA. The moment rural infrastructure is added, housing for poor is added, the whole thing becomes anti-farmer. The moment irrigation is added, it becomes anti-farmer. And therefore, this entire misguided debate at some stage must come to an end. The issue is, do we want this country to grow or not, or do we want all investments to be diverted into other countries? Mr. Anand Sharma's experience is far more than mine, and I stand fully in support of the proposal that Mr. Sharma gave to the Prime Minister. It is my regret that Mr. Jairam Ramesh was more persuasive and he managed to persuade the Prime Minister. That's all I have to say.